First question from Trayvon. Hey, Jason, I was curious what your thoughts on the Lakers potentially pushing Reeves back to the bench for Gabe Vincent, because I believe the second unit ran much better last year when you had Austin Reeves and Rui. The combo makes more sense, even though I think Austin Reeves is better than D'Lo. I feel like it would remove some of those too many hands in the cookie jar stretches with ball handlers. And then second question, watching Cam Reddish navigate screens and play defense on Murray really makes me think if he could do that consistently as well, he forces teams to respect his shot more than, say, Vanderbilt. Could you see him being a breakout player? Great questions, Trevon. I did a whole rewatch of the Lakers game this morning, and so I want to spend some time to break that down. By the way, for those of you who are wondering why we didn't hit more games tonight in this jam-packed slate, I tried to watch as many games as possible, but it's like sensory overload, and there were so many different games that I wanted to watch tonight. And what I didn't want to do was watch games and give you guys half-assed analysis because I wasn't actually able to watch them that closely. So I'm going to hit several games from tonight's slate tomorrow morning in a separate show. So keep an eye on the feeds. We're going to do another show tomorrow that hits on some of the other debuts that we saw from around the league. But here's the deal. So as long as D'Angelo Russell is on the team, which we'll see when we get to the deadline, I think it is the right lineup to stick with Austin Reeves, D'Angelo Russell, with Taurean Prince, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis. I actually think Taurean Prince did a pretty good job, especially on rewatch, defending Jamal Murray. If you watch the game, they were running, and I put a clip of this on my Twitter feed that you guys can see about the kind of screening actions they were running Taurean Prince through. And they weren't offering any help. There was a play where like LeBron and AD were defending the two screeners, and they're both kind of sitting back by the elbow, and they're both just standing there watching as Taurean Prince is basically running figure eights around screens. And like it's just a really difficult job. Now, there's an advantage there, right? Because like you're going to force Jamal Murray to take a tough movement jump shot after doing a bunch of running himself. And by staying home elsewhere, you're forcing the Nuggets to stagnate and take difficult shots, right? But Jamal Murray is one of the top 15, 16 players in the world, and he's going to make those shots sometimes. And he did against Taurean Prince. But in general, I actually thought Taurean Prince did a decent job with what his job was in that defense, which was while everyone else stands around, and he's not getting a ton of help in terms of hedges and stuff on screens, he needs to be pursuing the ball constantly. And I thought he did a decent job. And then on the offensive end of the floor, you desperately need him in his shooting anyway. And he can actually kind of attack on these dribble handoffs and make plays. So like the starting lineup is fine. Now, again, like I do agree with the overall premise that you have too much complication in terms of shot or decision-making processes, right? Like, nowhere near enough Austin Reeves last night. Way too much D'Angelo Russell, right? Austin's a better player. He should get more of those touches. So like the way you answer that question is like eventually they need to simplify this process the same way the Nuggets do, right? If you watch the Denver Nuggets, it's like Jamal Murray's running the first action almost every single time. You know, Jokic is operating as the fulcrum in the two-man game almost every single time. If the first action gets shut down, they might flow into a KCP action, right? And then KCP will take his pull-up 17-footer that he takes or occasionally get downhill off of a ball screen. But like Jamal Murray's the guy and KCP is the second guy. It's a clear hierarchy in terms of the perimeter players, and Jokic is the fulcrum, right? Aaron Gordon's not running pick and rolls. Very rarely, right? Aaron Gordon's not getting a ton of like touches in the flow of the offense. It's like he's operating almost as a big man at that center position, basically cutting along the baseline, crashing the offensive glass, right? Vertical spacing. Michael Porter Jr. is primarily operating as a spot-up guy. It's a very clear hierarchy. And so, you need to kind of form the same thing with the Lakers. And so I tend to think that it makes more sense with the starters, especially, to have D'Angelo Russell basically just play off the ball. Have him just, I mean, again, in their read and react stuff, that doesn't mean he can't put the ball on the floor. But what I'm saying is like in terms of set actions, run him for Austin. Run him for LeBron. We're going to talk about LeBron in a minute, but he's a point guard too. He was the point guard when the Lakers won the title in 2020. Run the action for your primary ball handlers and have D'Angelo Russell's role simplified as an off-ball player. Then if there's a bench group that has D'Lo with LeBron and Christian Wood, then by all means, run some more stuff through D'Angelo Russell. But they do need to simplify their overall decision-making process throughout the game because right now, way too many guys are out of rhythm throughout the game. Kind of a similar issue to what we were talking about with the Celtics earlier, right? The Rui issue is interesting because he was really, really good last year for most of the end of the regular season and most of the playoffs. And he's been kind of a mixed bag throughout preseason and was pretty bad last night against the Nuggets, right? And I think there's a couple of specific reasons for that. He's coming in off the bench and he's operating against a set defense a lot, which is not his strength. When he was succeeding in the playoffs, he was getting a lot of wide open catch and shoot threes, attacking closeouts, attacking in transition, and then occasionally attacking in the post in a mismatch situation, right? And those were like the only times he'd attack against a set defense. I think the answer there is, again, this is where you got to lean more on LeBron. So there was a quote that was going around on social media today, LeBron talking to Darvin Ham, somehow they caught it on a hot mic during the game, and he basically says, like, I can run point guard, right? And he kind of goes like, hey, give me Austin, give me Taurean Prince, and let me run point, is what he says. And the reason why he's saying that is, like, he's getting frustrated too. He literally said to Darvin Ham, he goes, I'm just floating around out there. And it's true. LeBron's just setting ball screens and floating around while lesser players like D'Angelo Russell are making decisions. And so I think simplifying that hierarchy of ball handling and getting the ball in LeBron James's hands more will make it so that he's in rhythm more throughout the game. Will make it so that the decision-making process is better throughout the game. Will make it so that Rui Hachimura gets more of those catch-and-shoot opportunities and closeout opportunities and mismatch opportunities that he needs to get. Because LeBron James is the guy that'll be like, oh, we just ran this action. Rui just set a pin down for Austin coming off the weak side. He got a switch with a guard. I'm going to dribble this over here. Everybody get the fuck out of the way. Let's throw the ball down to Rui on the right block and let him go to work. Like, LeBron is that guy that will operate like that in the half court. And that's why they need to organize their offense more around those lines. And then, again, like, Anthony Davis had a rough second half last night. But, like, that's the kind of thing where if LeBron is more aggressive or I should say more involved with the ball in his hands, he's going to identify what's going on with Anthony Davis and get him some easier opportunities to try to break his slump. Anthony Davis. The difference between his dribble attacks when he was kind of like with a live dribble versus when he had his back to the basket. That's what I want to kind of dive into for a second. So, like, Anthony Davis had this like kind of mixed night where I thought he was amazing in the first half. I think he had like 17 points. Had a bunch of big rebounds. Obviously, he struggled to guard Jokic, but no one in the planet can guard Jokic. But there was like bad possessions and good possessions in there. There were these possessions where, like, he'd have Jokic on the left block and he would make a hard move, like hit Jokic with his right shoulder, generate a little bit of separation, make a little right-handed push shot over the top. He had a nice like sweeping hook across the lane. He had some moves. When he made post moves against Nikola Jokic, he had success. When he stared Jokic in the face and just hit that classic in and out dribble and then dropped his shoulder and then screamed for a foul and just threw the ball up, he missed every single one of those. And so that's the difference. Like, and to me, it's really simple. Jokic is wide. He is a massive human being. And AD is attacking him from like 15 feet from the basket. So again, imagine a wide target, okay? And let's imagine you're the basket. If it's a wide target and I'm further away, I can go around you and make a move to the rim. But if we're 15 feet from the basket and Jokic is playing me at like 8 feet, I can't get around him and get to the rim. I'm going to have to take basically a shot going side to side parallel away from the rim. Because Jokic is wide, and unless you get him to lean one way, you're not going to cross him over and get a straight line drive to the basket. So when Anthony Davis turned his back and made a post move, he scored. And when he tried to do his stupid foul grifty drop a shoulder thing, it wasn't working because Jokic doesn't even have to move. Okay, here comes another right-handed drive. Slide step, initiate a little bit of contact, make him throw the ball up. I had a lot of Lakers fans bitching and moaning in my on Twitter this morning about the officiating and Jokic like shoving AD on his drives and stuff like this. And again, I'm going to tell you the same thing I said to the Warriors fans. Like, blaming officiating is a loser mentality. Like, I watched those games and I watched the film today and I thought every single one of those was a good non-call. There was even one that he got in the first half that probably shouldn't have been a call as he was driving to his left side. Like again, in those situations when you're two big guys driving at each other around the basket, there's going to be contact. And the referees are going to be allowing contact in those situations. So, like, again, I'd like to see AD, especially in over the course of a playoff series against Denver, potentially operate more as a post player against Jokic than as a face-up player when he's that close to the rim. It's a different story when he's operating from 24 feet and he's got space and he can beat Jokic off the dribble with room to get back to the basket, right? I thought some of that process stuff was interesting. Again, you look at it and it's like, okay, he made 6 isolation moves. I can't remember the exact total, but let's say he made 6 isolation moves against Jokic. It's easy to go like he scored on 3, missed on 3. That's half the time. No, like when he had good process, he scored every time. When he had bad process, he missed every time. And so when you can identify those things and make that adjustment, that's how you get it. So like the next time I score 5 out of 6 times, because as good as Jokic is, and I think he's bona fide the best player in the league, he can't fucking guard Anthony Davis. He can't guard it. Anthony Davis in the post is too athletic and can get an easy shot over the top of him. He just has to have the right offensive approach in those situations. With that second half and him going scoreless, I want to cut him a little bit of slack because this is something that happened all the time last year as well. And again, we can see the ebb and flow in Anthony Davis's overall offensive production, and there's no doubt that that's a problem, and it's the difference between him being I think I had him as like the 6th or 7th best player in the world in my player rankings. It's the difference between him being that and being Jokic. Because if he was 30 points a game and the best defensive player in the world, that's a guy who could be in the conversation for being the best player in the world. But no, it's 30 and 17 in elite defense one night, and then it's 17 and 10 in elite defense the next night. But even if it's 17 points, it's still the elite defense. And again, even though he just can't guard Jokic, doesn't mean he's not a dominant defensive player. He was all over the place defensively in this game, made a lot of big plays, grabbed a lot of contested rebounds. Anthony Davis's floor is incredibly high because of what he brings to the table as an athlete. But again, like, don't just look at point totals with Anthony Davis. That's not the best indicator of his impact. As far as him going scoreless in the second half, the reason why this happens so frequently with the Lakers is that offensive hierarchy thing I'm talking about. Way too often, he'll go 7-8 possessions in a row without touching the ball because D'Lo's co-opting possessions. Because Austin Reeves, who's a great player, hasn't touched the ball in 7 or 8 possessions and wants to run an action himself, right? Because LeBron James, who's the 2nd or 3rd best player of all time, maybe even the 1st, he wants the ball because he hasn't had the ball all game. And so what ends up happening is it ends up being like tug of war within your own roster. And so by simplifying the offensive process, that could also go a long way to helping Anthony Davis stay in rhythm. Couple of quick final notes. Over pursuing on the offensive glass, that was a huge problem last night. Like the Nuggets constantly kill the Lakers in transition. It's a huge problem with Anthony Davis as well. This has been an issue with him nonstop in the Jokic matchup. You can literally see Jokic. He's always looking at Anthony Davis at the end of every Laker offensive possession, and he can see when AD's not paying attention, and he sprints down the floor, gets a cross match, and he's either going to draw a double team and make a play out of it, catch and score over the top, or draw a double team, make a play out of it. Guy's going to miss a shot, and he's going to grab the offensive rebound over everybody and put it in. Like, a lot of the damage that Jokic does to this Lakers team in particular could be mitigated just by Anthony Davis running the floor better. And that's not flopping, all those like weird straight line drives where he throws a bullshit shot up and then flops. Those are leading to transition opportunities. Over pursuing on the offensive glass, and that was an issue for the whole team, not just Anthony Davis, but over pursuing on the offensive glass gives those offensive rebound opportunities. And don't let Jokic outrun you when you're a better athlete than him. Like we just talked about this earlier with the Nuggets, or with the Mavericks. We saw Derek Lively sprinting up and down the floor all game long. And I'm not saying Anthony Davis is going to be like a 20-year-old running up and down the floor, but he can do better than he's been doing, and it would go a long way to help them there. Offering smart help. On rewatch, there was a lot of bad defensive rotations from the Lakers with them getting out of position and over helping. There was a play where Gabe Vincent just decided he had Jokic with the ball and then just left him to the corner, and Jokic shot and made a 3. There was a cut from Christian Brown in the 4th quarter for a big left-handed layup over LeBron where Gabe Vincent was just not guarding anybody, standing at like the 3rd lane line up on the left side of the floor. And you're like, what are we doing here, right? So the Laker defense in general just wasn't very sharp. Again, the Nuggets, I'm keeping mixing up teams. The Nuggets are better than the Lakers, but the Lakers are capable of getting to that level. They just have to improve in a bunch of specific areas in the margins. Competing for long rebounds was another one. Every single a huge play in the second half was, I think it was Jokic misses a 3 from the top of the key. It goes off the back of the rim long, and D'Angelo Russell just fails to get the rebound. It ends up going to Jamal Murray in the corner for a 3. It was a huge sequence in the game. Immediately after that, Austin Reeves smokes a layup on one end, which leads to the Aaron Gordon alley-oop dunk on the other end. Like, there were several of those like key sequences where it's like, if you flip those sequences in your favor, you have a chance to win that game instead of losing the way that you do. And so, the Nuggets are clearly better, but the Lakers are clearly right there. They just have to make the changes that they need to make to get over the top. And to that last mailbag question, Cam Reddish, I agree. I thought he played a solid game. He was good at the point of attack, navigated screens well, was contesting shots well. You could see his length and his athleticism be an advantage there. He secured some key contested rebounds as well. And he hit a couple of shots. He was a +7 on the night. And if he's going to play like that, I don't expect him to play like that consistently. But if he does, he's got a good chance to stay in the rotation.